Disney World is a very popular vacation destination for big groups. So we asked the All Ears community, what's your number one tip for going to Disney World with a large group?
Lots of people, when they go to Disney World, go with everyone they know. That's maybe an exaggeration, but their entire families. Yes, we see that happen all the time in the parks, the matching t-shirt gangs, the huge families that have clearly split up or lost somebody gangs. There's a lot of families that come to Disney World in a very, very, very large group. And that is very different from how we usually navigate Disney World in our other videos, from how one person, two people navigates Disney World. Having kids, having grandma and grandpa, things get more complicated. So we talked to our audience. What are the best tips for those large groups? And I want to hear what the kind of things they said were. Emma, what did you see our audience say?
So our number one tip, this was the top tip from everyone, almost everybody commented this, split up. Don't feel the pressure that you always need to be together. All 20 of you are not going to want to do the same thing every single time. So that's absolutely the first one. There's so much to do at Disney World, especially when you're traveling in big groups and just standing around and waiting together in lines. If you're like my family, maybe you don't want to spend that much time together. You want to have a nice dinner together. And then everybody else is what if we did something else? Maybe not together. So that's, our number one tip. Even Sarah S. said, our rule is one picture, one ride, and one meal together every single day. And then they decide to do what they want. And I actually really kind of like that. What do you guys think about this tip?
I definitely agree because it's so hard to make everybody happy. You're not going to make everybody happy. That's unrealistic. So I fully agree. Split up into different groups. Keep the thrill ride seekers all together in a group. Keep maybe if there are a couple adults that don't care for the thrill rides, keep them with the little kids so that everybody can be happy with those rides. Even you can split up into a group of early risers, night owls. So maybe half of the group goes to the park right at rope drop, and then the other half meets them up later. It's totally fine. It's totally normal to split up. You do not have to stay together with your group the entire time. So I definitely agree with this tip.
Breedlove loves thrill rides, and sometimes I feel like they make me want to die. So we could split up on those. Except I don't like splitting up with Breedlove.
No, I know. But I think this is great, and I would double down on it and say, let everybody plan at their own pace. Some people are super planners, like my Uncle Graham. My first trips to Walt Disney World with my Uncle Graham in the 90s, he would follow guidebooks and type out an itinerary, print it, and put it in a little folder. And every day he would have it and he'd go, okay, we have to sit at the top right side of Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular so we could be the first to exit the venue and get over to Star Tours. Every moment of every day was planned. When I go with my parents, I like to be a little more chill. We like to spend a long time eating, and my mom can't ride all the rides. So if we get to a thrill ride, great. My dad and I will ride it, and my mom will sit somewhere and enjoy. But everybody's going to plan at their own pace. And I think this is a great thing about Genie Plus, the fact that 60 days out, you don't have to book all of your FastPass Plus reservations, get everybody on the same page, anticipate what a bunch of people are going to want to do 2 months from now. You get to wake up that morning, whoever feels like it, I ate a little too much at Mama Melrose yesterday. I think I'm going to sit the thrill rides out today. And you have that option, which is very luxurious in a way, but you also don't know how much it'll cost until you wake up that morning or at midnight the night before.
There's a give and take.
Yeah.
I know that my parents entered a new section of life the year that my brother and I got old enough for them to hand us a walkie-talkie and say, go have fun, kids. At the time, I was like, yes! But now I know that the real winners in that situation were my parents. They were the ones who were like, I'm going to sit in the Germany Pavilion for 2 hours. My kids aren't going to be there.
Honestly, Mandy F., what she says kind of goes with your family. Don't try to stay together. Do what you want. You need to divide and conquer. Disney World has a lot for everybody. But what she suggests that I think is honestly important for probably parents like yours is just schedule meetup points throughout the day. So you guys can kind of consistently check in on each other, touch base, but then also be understanding if maybe they don't make it to that meetup point because the line might have gotten longer. The reservation might have taken longer if somebody decided to have lunch somewhere. So picking a meeting point, don't pick a restaurant or a ride. It's going to be crowded there. But try to pick something that like isn't a park icon, but everybody's going to know. So maybe like the Hubgrass. It might be busy, but it's not going to be as busy as a ride entrance or a restaurant or the castle. It's going to be easy, stuff like that. And that's what she recommends. And I think for families, especially with older kids, that's a great way to check in on them. I mean, we have cell phones. We don't have to use walkie-talkies like they did in the olden days.
Sounds nice to me.
Okay.
but
nice.
For those families, you know,
Listen,
that way you can just see your
walkie-talkies
kids.
are fun.
And some people don't give their
Walkie-talkies are
kids
fun.
cell phones when they're 5 years old.
Which I respect.
Well, they're probably
So
also
if you
not
need a
alone.
walkie-talkie, yeah.
But like,
maybe.
if you're 10 and you don't have a cell phone, tell your parents to get you some walkie-talkies.
Walkie-talkie.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Walkie-talkie.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that.
Yep. Also, if you are going to be splitting up from kids who are kind of in that in-between age where it's not like you would split up with them at a public mall, but maybe in Magic Kingdom you feel okay doing it, one tip that we see a lot from our readers is to introduce your kids to a cast member and just say like, and this is actually great for younger kids that you're not splitting up from too. If at any point your kid gets separated or lost or overwhelmed and needs to find you and can't find you, their walkie-talkie dies. It happens. They know what a cast member's name tag looks like. And if you just on Main Street at the start of your day, go up to a cast member and just introduce the cast member to your kid and say, this is the kind of person you look for. If you can't find me or if your walkie-talkie dies, then your kid has somewhere to go and somewhere to turn to. Disney is a very safe place for kids to get lost, and they have a lot of protocols in place for lost kids. It, of course, is something a parent never wants to happen, but certainly can. So that's when splitting up turns evil, which is kind of off topic. But if you're in a big group, you never know when little Timmy might go renegade.
You can do a Sharpie on your arm, or you can get temporary tattoos of like your phone number and put it on your child's arm just in case that does happen. And then they can go up to a cast member and be like, help.
Could you call this? Could you call my temporary tattoo, please?
My walkie-talkie died. Could you just call this cell phone
Could
number?
you just call my mom?
See, it's great. It's foolproof.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So another tip would be to meet up for dinner. So Melanie J said, split up and meet for a meal later. It's too hard to do everything together. Everyone has so many different favorites. So that is a really good point. A meal throughout the day is going to be one of the easiest times to meet up with your group because everyone has to eat. Everybody has to eat 3 meals a day, even snacks. So throughout the day, you're doing your own thing. You're doing different rides, different shows, whatever. Maybe half of your group is having a resort day and then they come to the park later. A meal is going to be the easiest way to all meet up. Maybe say, hey, we're going to meet up at Casey's Corner for lunch at this time, and then we'll decide what to do the rest of the day and then split up again later. So I think that's a really good idea. We also have Graham J said, make sure someone makes necessary dining reservations as early as possible before the trip, or there will be a lot of counter service meals. That's also a very good point because, you know, you might want 1 or 2 table services, but you got to book those in advance. And if you don't, you're going to end up at a lot of quick service counters instead.
Y'all, I need to point something out. I just read who the review is. That is my Uncle Graham Jessup.
No, it is not.
It has to be. Make sure someone makes necessary
No,
dining
stop.
reservations as early as possible for the trip, and there will be a
way.
lot of Uncle Graham
Cool.
came on AllEars.net and left his review.
He came on AllEars.net after his review. That's so Uncle Graham.
You've got to get those dining reservations or everything will be quick service. You'll be eating at
That's a good
Restaurantosaurus.
I truly agree with Uncle Graham here and Melanie J because, like, for many of my trips to Disney World, it was the older kids' parents situation where we would split up for most of the day. But my family was very geared towards table service reservations. We usually did 1 minimum a day, and oftentimes we would do lunch and dinner, which is wild. And today I'm like, why would we do that? But I loved it at the time. But like, I specifically remember when my brother turned 21, we drank around the world at Epcot for the first time. And midday, we had a beer garden reservation scheduled. And the whole family met up at Beer Garden. Or California Grill was often our big meal for the trip. There's no way in heck anyone is missing a California Grill reservation, your older kids are going to show up there. If you're worried about your older kids going renegade, you make them a fancy dinner reservation. Then you have to pay for them, which is a whole nother issue.
You got to take into consideration how much money everybody actually has, not just how much they're willing to spend. Some people live in a willing to spend world. Other people live in a, what can I actually physically afford right now? How much is there in my checking account? Doing math, adding things up on the menu, just to
Probably
make sure
not $600 for your kids to get a bunch of drinks at California Grill because they
but I'm talking
21.
about if everybody's splitting the bill, you know, there's always going to be somebody who works really hard, doesn't make a lot of money, and did everything they could, pushed to be able to somehow budget and get here. And, you know, if they suddenly see on the itinerary, everybody meet at California Grill on Friday night, you know, and everyone's paying for themselves because everything's being split, that's a lot. Think about it.
However, I will say, once you do narrow down the types of food that you want and the budgets, make sure everybody's set in all of those ways, you will want to pick specific restaurants and specific times. Best meal times, in our opinions, are off meal times. So not peak lunchtime, not peak dinner time. It's going to be super crowded. Reservations are already going to be booked for whatever restaurant you want. So you can eat early or late for each meal. Lunchtime for table service restaurants. Avoid 6 to 8 p.m. Just don't eat then. That's going to be super crowded.
If you have a big group, this is especially important. Like, I might be able to slip in and sit at the bar if I'm like in the park for the day for work alone. But like, you guys in these big groups, if everyone wants to eat together and you're going up to a quick service, your off-peak meal times is maybe the most important tip. Like, go eat lunch at 10:30 or 11. Eat dinner at like 4. Just get your whole meal schedule shifted. Eat a second late dinner, whatever you need to do, but just get them off those peak meal times.
One other thing that I think people should really consider if they are traveling with big groups and they do want those dining reservations is you need to probably try to get them as early in advance as you can, because dining reservations are going to book up, and that means there's going to be very limited availability for you and your group. So booking can start as early as 5:30 to 5:45, 60 days before your trip. So if you're staying at a Walt Disney World resort, you can book that 60 days in advance. And then even then, it's going to be really hard to get reservations, especially if you're a really large group. So what we recommend is maybe considering getting 1 or 2 tables, maybe even 3, depending on the size. You might not get to eat all together, but it's at the same time in the same restaurant. So shared experiences.
Now, it's not guaranteed, but if you do that and then you show up to the restaurant, you could be like, hey, is there a way that we could push our 2 tables together? If not, that's totally cool. Just be nice when you're asking about it. Cast members always try to do the most for you and try to make a magical vacation for you, but sometimes that isn't always realistic. So just be nice when you ask for things. But to guarantee a table for your whole group, you need to look into restaurants that are made for bigger groups. And how do you know which restaurants those are, you may ask? Well, we've got an article up on our website just for that. So we've got an article that it's the best restaurants for large groups. We will put it in the description below for you. Just make it easy. Just do one little click. There it is.
Wow.
You're welcome.
Thanks, AllEars.
Yeah, we should all go read that.
Tip number 3. Here we go. Find the right place to stay. This is a big one.
You moved too quick.
I'm sorry, but this is
He's really
everything.
excited.
Any place I hang my hat, any place I hang my hat is home. And when you're with a big group, especially a family, it's not just a home, it's a homestead.
There's a lot of hats to hang.
That's beautiful.
You and your family have a safe, warm, dry place to hang your hat and get off your feet.
Yeah.
Is that what they say? And that in Walt Disney World. And in Walt Disney World, that means picking the perfect resort, or there are other options. Karen M says, consider staying off property with a Vrbo type place. This has the added benefit of a kitchen, so you can save money on food and guarantee the whole group can have a meal together. That's very interesting, a meal together at a rental home. And you can get large houses with many bedrooms so everyone has their own space at the end of the day. Now, I do agree with this. I will say I have friends who have booked on Airbnb and had horrible experiences. So I only know how this has gone wrong. They show up and the place is like dirty and doesn't look like the pictures and stuff like that. And they've had to get a refund and find other accommodations. Not here in Orlando, that was in New York City, which is more likely a place for that kind of thing to happen. But I just want to put that out there.
I do a lot of Airbnb rentals, not in Orlando because I live here, but in other places. And I always say, look at the ratings. And I often lean for super hosts who are like, they have a length of time. They're usually a little more pricey, but only by a little bit. And you can still find budget friendly super hosts with 5-star ratings. But I have never had a bad experience at a place that had a super host with a 5-star rating. On Airbnb, I don't know if Vrbo has that kind of thing, but I know that Airbnb does. So that's my tip there.
Cher K said, stay at your choice of resort, which is within the budget for each family. So this is splitting up. This is splitting up in order to alleviate people from being upset about paying above their budget for a hotel or not getting the amenities they want out of the trip. I love this idea. There are other options, and there are a lot of options on property. Give everybody their choice and consider splitting up. I think that's a cool idea, Cher K.
I'll also say with that, like, it also doesn't, you could take the splitting up route. You could also take everyone goes for the like least expensive option that everyone can afford. If you guys want to make sure you're staying in the hotel, just like see what the kind of with dining, what's the tolerance for spending here, and everybody stays at, if everyone's like, if one party's like, well, I'm most comfortable spending in an All-Star this time, everyone stay at the All-Star. And what that means is you have extra spending money for other stuff. There's a lot of ways to do this without conflict. Rentals also, if we're jumping back to like the bigger rentals, some of those have some really interesting amenities.
Yeah, a lot of rentals, if you go for like the larger or the higher end ones, they might even have like movie rooms or game rooms, multiple living rooms and private pools. So that way you can kind of spread out, everybody can do what they want to do, and you don't feel like you're on top of each other even if you are staying together. So it might be a little bit more expensive, but if you're all splitting it, maybe it won't be half bad.
Plus, these rentals are cheap compared to some Walt Disney World hotel rooms. Like, you could end up at a place between $200 and $500 a night that has 4+ bedrooms and upgrades and a full kitchen and space, when that's how much you pay at a deluxe resort many times, like $500 to have just a room with 2 queen beds. Sometimes it's more than that. I just spent $590 before taxes to stay one night at the Polynesian in a regular 2 queen bed room. So, and that didn't have a kitchen, and it didn't have a movie room, that's for sure. You just have to.
But it had pineapple and I.
It did have pineapple and I could get Dole Whip just steps from my hotel room. So, and I was very close to Magic Kingdom, which is a good point because you will need to work in transportation if you do this. If you're driving, that might not be so much of an issue, but if you're flying, you have to consider the cost of renting a car or running Ubers to and from the parks in the morning, which can, add a couple $100s onto a trip, especially if you need Uber XLs, a couple of Ubers to get the whole party to Magic Kingdom or wherever you might be going.
And another good option while we're talking about hotels and staying everywhere, if you want to stay at maybe a fancier resort, but not necessarily pay that fancy resort price, you can always rent DVC points. We talk about it a lot. David's DVC rentals, that's another option for you just to keep in mind.
DVC is Disney's timeshare program, the Disney Vacation Club, and with it, people can buy in and have a timeshare with Disney. You don't have to be in the DVC to stay in a DVC room. You can pay cash for them. Another option is doing point rental, which you can do through services like David's, or if you have a friend who's in the DVC who's not using their points. My family always stays in DVC rooms. We're staying in a 2-bedroom suite with a full kitchen because we rent DVC points from family friends, and you can do a similar thing with David's DVC rentals, is renting points through them. So that's like the way that we always do it, because at this point, like, we might not be a large group, but we are, my parents are an adult couple. My brother and I are 2 adult couples. Like, we need more space now. And having a full 2-bedroom suite with a full kitchen and a living space is enough room for us, where 1 hotel room wouldn't be enough. Even like 2 connecting hotel rooms would feel like less space than a 2-bedroom suite. And we're paying a very reasonable rate for these rooms. So highly, highly, highly recommend checking out our friends at David's DVC Rentals to see if you can find a good room that fits for your trip. If you have a larger group, it can be a real lifesaver.
And for as desperate in need of a refurbishment as Old Key West is, we can reference your tour of that resort as well, Quincy. They do have space, and for whatever reason, that resort to me feels like a family reunion resort.
Listen, I really disliked my Old Key West stay when I was paying cash for a studio room, but when I stay with my family in a 2-bedroom suite at Old Key West, loved it. It's a little annoying because it's not very close to all the parks, and there are internal bus loops at some of these bigger DVC hotels, but it is so worth it for me to have a laundry machine. I rode Cali River Rapids. There's a laundry machine in here. I can just wash my pants and dry them in the dryer.
Yeah.
In your room.
In my room.
What an idea.
Listen, I love it. If I don't want to pay for a bag, I can just keep rewashing my stuff. Save money there too.
You don't even pack for Disney World. Everybody just wears one pair of clothes, wash it every night.
Genius.
So what are you wearing when they're in the wash?
Towels.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or your bathing
I think you're
suit.
getting
You
a
can
little
swap
bit
in
too
and out.
personal.
Yeah.
And we've got a few more miscellaneous tips that we want to throw in here that our readers told us because we think that they might be helpful for some of the big groups. What do you guys see?
We've got Will D. He said, matching shirts. Nobody wants to do it, but it makes finding each other so much easier. And I do agree with you, Will. Planning the matching t-shirts isn't always fun, but when you're actually wearing them in the park together, taking pictures, it's super cute. It's super fun. It is easy to find each other if you get lost. So if you're looking for some really nice, really good matching t-shirts, you should definitely check out our friends over at Disney Food Blog. They do have their own merch store, and they've got new designs for all your favorite rides, favorite snacks. So you should get matching t-shirts from over there at Disney Food Blog.
The next tip that we've seen is from Megan M. And this one I was a little bit surprised by because she says VIP tours is the best way to go if it's in your budget. And I will say that one was a little bit surprising because VIP tours are expensive. So if you don't know what that is essentially where Disney provides a tour guide for you and they take you around whatever park of your choice and you get to skip the lines and they handle all of that for you and you don't have to worry about it and they give you fun little tidbits and they're just really nice tour guides. But it's very expensive. It can have up to 10 people and it starts roughly around $400 an hour with a minimum of 7 hours. And that price is subject to change, especially during busier seasons. It's crazy expensive. Like there's no secret that that's crazy expensive, but you can stay together as a group. You're escorted around Disney and to the front of lines. You get all of your meals taken care of because this VIP tour guide kind of coordinates it for you. Plus you have a tour guide to answer any questions and kind of help you with your day. So it is a luxury, but it might be a good idea if you are a larger group and you have the money to spend on it.
That's $280 a person if you bring 10 people. That doesn't include your park ticket, so definitely keep that in mind. And if that's something you can all afford, you definitely skip all the lines and they drive you from your resort in a van to backstage. They walk you in through backstage into the middle of the parks, and it's a really unique experience. So I think that's cool. Frank B said, be flexible. And when one person goes to the bathroom, everyone goes.
That's so true.
I mean, we do that when we're filming videos in the parks.
It makes sense timing wise.
Well, it's also, especially with parties with little kids, if like mom goes and the little kids don't need to go, maybe the little kids go and try. I know that I am awful about like being in line and everybody just had a bathroom trip and I was like, I'm good. I'll just stand out here. And then I'm in line for 90 minutes and I'm like, everyone else is cool. They all went to the bathroom. And I'm like, God. So,
even the quick service restaurants a lot of times will have their own bathroom. Cosmic Rays has a great bathroom.
That's true.
Pecos Bills. While everybody's sitting down, I might just say, I'm going to take a trip to the condiments bar and, do what I need to do. And maybe everyone doesn't need to know about it.
I'll say this is also actually a great tip for water. And it's one that I use a lot, especially on really big filming days in the summer, which is very similar to a really big park day in the summer, is if one person's drinking water, everybody's drinking water. And that's also a really great tip to keep everybody hydrated, especially if you're coming in the summer, especially if you have little kids, the elderly with you. Like it is super hot. It is not safe. When we're in the parks in the summer, we see people all of the time being like helped by paramedics because of heat stroke, falling over, literally, like because of the heat. So
Yesterday,
just keep that in mind. Yeah. And
I saw
it's
an
February.
older gentleman in line
Yep.
in the queue for People Mover.
It's 80 degrees in February. It's 100 degrees in July. It's hotter than you think. And even somebody who's used to heat might not be used to the humidity here. So that's always drink water. When somebody drinks water, everybody drinks water. All right. Lastly, rapid fire tips. Anything we missed from you guys?
Okay, my tip is if you're going in a large group, be realistic. You're obviously not going to get through everything. So maybe have your top 1 and 2 things that you know you have to get done, you want to get done, and then the rest, just be flexible.
If you're going in a large group, but you have been to Disney World before in a smaller group, I recommend changing your mentality, change your expectations. That's kind of like being flexible, but you might think and you know what's going to happen and you're flexible with that. You're not. Large groups can really change the environment of Disney in good ways and bad ways. So change your expectations.
We're all the experts in our friends and family groups. I hear bossy Bonnies and bossy Bobs every day talking to their group in this grandiose language, everything that's going on and everything is, and they're always wrong. Don't you walk by people talking really loudly, explaining really important things that are happening to their friends and family, and it's completely inaccurate. So
They'll be like, and now after this, we'll be heading over to the Hogwarts Castle. And you're like,
yeah, you're like, oh no! And you want, my urge is to turn and correct them,
rescue them,
but don't. That's a note for me. Don't be that person that corrects them, but maybe lighten up. Let your family discover some things on their own. You are the expert. You're here. We're all together. This is a community of experts, but maybe let your family and your friends find out things on their own. Maybe they might even find out the truth.
Wow. And then my tip is just, this one's kind of niche, but it's not, but then it is. Go in the off season. If you can. It's really hard to predict when Disney's off season is now. The crowds have been super unpredictable for the last few years, but technically winter is still the off season, and even if it's crowded, it is cooler. And also, if you like water parks, go to Blizzard Beach, I think, because Blizzard Beach or Typhoon Lagoon are both amazing for big groups. In the off season, if you go, it's still warm. Like I said, it's 80 degrees. That's water park weather. Get a cabana that are not overly expensive and lounge the day away at Blizzard Beach if you're a water park family. That's my niche tip for bigger groups.
Spring for the cabana.
For the cabana.
It's hard out there in the mean streets of the water parks when you have to just find your own chair and put your stuff and hope no one steals everything.
Yeah. It's a dog world.
Also, the cabanas have service. Like they'll bring you stuff in the cabanas.
Don't they have a mini fridge?
Yeah, they have a mini fridge.
That's
you can
what
get
I'm saying.
Cheese?
Get the cabana.
You can get cheese.
Cheese. Want more info for your next trip? Do a search on AllEars.net for anything Disney or Universal and get results that will blow you away. Be sure to like and subscribe, and most important, join the All Ears community by following us on social media at AllEars.net. Have some thoughts the cast missed? Let us know down in the comments. This is Chris for AllEars.net. See you next time.